All right, so good evening and thank you for coming to the Artist Talk in the context of the exhibition Hybrid. I'm very happy to welcome you all. I'm delighted to welcome also admire Kamudzengerere and Helena Wittmann. First, I would like to introduce you, and then maybe we would speak first about your work, admire, and then about Helena's. And then we can open up a conversation about their works. You can ask questions if you have some. I hope you have all saw the works inside so that you can talk with us. Admire Kamudzengerere studied at the National Gallery School of Visual Arts and Design in Harare in Zimbabwe and at the Rijksakademie in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. He lives and works in Harare. In 2017, he represented the Zimbabwe at the 57th Venice Biennial and participated in further international biennials recently in Moscow in 2013, Bamako in 2017, Dakar 2018, Cairo this year, right? In 2017, he received the Northern Trust Prize at the Expo Chicago, and in 2018, the On-Demand Prize at the Mia Art Milan. Helena Wittmann studied at the Hochschule für Bildende Künste Hamburg. She lives and works in Hamburg. Her work can be situated at the intersection between fine art and experimental film. She participated internationally in film festivals and exhibitions. In 2014, she received the Berenberg Film Prize of the HFBK, the Best Future Film Award at the Desano d'Oro Film Festival in Italy in 2017, and a special jury mention at the Festival International de Cine Film Madrid in Spain. Helena has already been granted a working scholarship for the city of Hamburg, a travel scholarship from Neue Kunst in Hamburg, and the Freundeskreis der HFBK Hamburg. Thank you very much. Admire, I'm very happy that you are here tonight with us. And I'm very proud because we are showing two works by Admire, Open Line, an installation, and the video Identity. And Admire's work it's for the first time on show in Germany, so I'm very happy that we have the possibility to show it here. I discovered your work when I was researching for the exhibition and discovered your performance, Transcultural Protocol, which you did with Rachel Monosov. She's also part of the exhibition. Let us speak about the Zimbabwe Pavilion, because the work which is in the exhibition, it was on show there in 2017. And the pavilion was called Deconstruction Boundaries, Exploring Ideas of Belonging. There was another presentation of the work. So we have here a wall, right? And we have a lot of little pages from phone books. I counted them. So there are 25 pages in a row, and we have 11 rows. So in total, 250 pages, which is a lot. So Admire was installing around 3 days. Right, so it was not easy, you know, to install all the thing, but it looks great. Thank you for that. Tell me about the Zimbabwe Pavilion. How was the work there, and how was the process working on the work?
Thank you, Anna. Hello? No, it's fine. Okay.
It's working.
All right. Thank you, Anna, and hello once again, Helena, and hello everybody. Well, I got this invitation from the National Gallery to participate at the Zimbabwe Pavilion. Yeah, I think I'd worked before for the National Gallery of Zimbabwe as a visual arts sort of like instructor. So when they came to me, and they gave me this sort of like theme, which was deconstructing our own boundary. I found this old phone book. It was quite just interesting to sort of like look at the old phone book and how people, like how sort of like it's like, because of time, it's no longer sort of like something that we are using now. Like, I think now people have got like their own personal phone books in their own phones. And the idea of sort of like materiality and also being able to touch it and go through it, and also seeing how the construction of the geo sort of like boundaries in Zimbabwe of how sort of like phones were allocated, and the history also of communication towards it. And also Zimbabwe has sort of like shifted a lot, I think, since after 2000. Because I think, as you know, that before we used to have Robert Mugabe. I think that was then also when I was elected in power. But then at a certain point, Zimbabwe went through a space where they had to repossess the farming lands from the ex-British colonials that were in the country. So that sort of like history that's embedded within the telecommunication, and how you sort of like look at names in terms of like how, if I speak about my surname, like my surname is Kamudzengerere, and then your surname is Nowak, there's already like whether it's a dialect or whether it's already something that speaks about our own identity. But also to try and imagine the kind of person who you're dealing with.
Let us stay and speak about Zimbabwe, because it has a lot of inclusion and exclusion, right?
Yeah.
Because there is a very interesting and very nice artist statement about the work, Open Line, which is installed there, and the interaction of community. Can you tell us about this?
Before it used to be like, the phone book was also like kind of like an image of who's who in the society. Because to have a phone then was something which was like a privilege or something. So this is something that I found like very fascinating. Now everybody has a phone, but then it was about status. Status. And if you really follow through, especially on the names and who's got phones, it's actually certain species also. And these are not spaces which are like high density suburbs, but these are like northern top suburbs that people lived in, and it represents also like a kind of like income that you also earn, a kind of like position which you belong to in the society. So I think it was about privilege as well.
Right, because not everyone has the possibility to be named in such a book, right? And to be registered, and especially in Zimbabwe. This book is from 2009, right?
Yes.
Okay, and what do you think, because in the artist statement you are describing how it changed, communication and networking, and because phone books, we are not using phone books anymore, and it's really nice because you're also talking about codes and about identity and identification.
I didn't really get that very well.
It's because you are making, the point between the past and the present.
Yes.
That there are not such codes anymore, that the communication changed a lot nowadays.
Yeah, I wanted to, when we talk about also like the idea of boundaries as well, like to look at the phone book, like now, the phone book is actually in the phone. So this is something about what technology has actually done in terms of like boundaries. So like I don't have to look at the phone to actually get your physical address because I don't need it. Like now, I mean, like the idea of address has really changed where a lot of people now have got like virtual addresses, like your email and stuff. So this is like a new sort of like boundaries that we have actually created. And this is even bigger than sort of like borders, and it has sort of like opened up like the idea of networks and how we are able to sort of like be in one space and have a dialogue and continue to expand. So I really wanted to sort of like bring this sort of like history and movement, which is actually like ongoing right now as we speak.
And what I really liked is the word you were talking about, micro identities, you know? And it's like we have all passports and we are all connected to numbers, and also with the phone books, it was like we had a number and we had, but not only we have a zip codes, so we are all connected to numbers, like you said, to emails, etc.
It made sense to me because I think within this sort of like space of a system where it's technology, I think we are all sort of like known as certain digits or certain numbers. And this system is something that had already like existed before. Like what I find fascinating is that like when I travel, the whole process that I have to go through, like to try and get maybe to try and get even my visa or to try and even get my flight, all those things actually represent a certain number that, and that number actually speaks about me. It doesn't really speak about my name. Like that number, like that seat number, whether it's L32 or it's C2, that's me. I don't have to see my name that. And then that visa number also actually speaks about me. So this whole idea of how we as humans, I mean, like our identity can be reduced to something which is as simple as a number, was also like something fascinating that seemed to have like a connection with the phone book to me. Yeah.
When I researched the work, I found different titles. Open line is one, but you installed the work in different ways, right? So I found the title Registrar and Inquisition. Can you tell us a little bit? Because is it just the installation or the title of the exhibition, or what
No,
does
it
it
has to do. It has to do with the installation and also with the treatment of like how so what I'm actually like working on, especially within the phone book. Like I used at a certain point, I remember I used like the phone book pretty recently on a smaller scale as like a voters roll. Surprisingly, we had an election pretty recently in Zimbabwe, and that election is still refuted, and the government that's there is still sort of like considered illegitimate because the election was actually so-called like rigged or stolen. So what really happens is that like there's a system where for you to be able to vote, you have to go and register. And so when you register, and you have to go and also like cross-check if your name appears on the registration that now you are an able voter. So it doesn't matter whether you registered about 20 years ago. Every time when there's an election, you still have to go and re-register. But what I actually found fascinating is that like when people go to check for their names, sometimes their names are not appearing in the constitution, in the constituencies or spaces where they registered. This is sort of like, I don't know whether it's like a kind of like a game where it's meant to sort of like destabilize the political balances where a certain space is actually known that it belongs to who's who, and then so by doing that we actually like divide the votes that certain constituents does not sort of like go to a certain party. And within this voters roll there's a lot of irregularities where even certain names, also like the phone book, like your name can still appear in the phone book. It doesn't matter whether you passed on like 10 years ago. And the same thing kept also like, it continues also to happen now. So you have like people who probably are deceased but still are eligible voters. And also come election time, they're still voting, which is something I find really interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
You are traveling a lot,
Yeah.
and you know, the work is not only about, I would like to speak with you about portraits because it's mainly what you do, but before that, what I found in the statement that you are questioning, you know, question about norms. It's also, you know, you did the connection to norms, right? And questioning self in broad set of norms, beliefs, and religious practices. So you also made the connection to a cultural context. Can you say something about that?
No. Yeah, I mean, I think this is to, like, because I've been trying to research a lot about cultures. Maybe also like as an artist, I think that as artists, we are actually like culture travelers. So we need to sort of like maybe consume a lot, you know. And within that, within us, I think they are actually like, we have some kind of like permeability of sort of like ideas. So our borders actually allows this sort of like flows within that. So what's interesting is like when you sort of like travel within certain spaces as an artist, there are certain things which you can't do and certain things which you can do. Of course, I mean, you might be want to be radical, but then it might also like unbalance the political probably disposition of a certain space. So these are things that you have to sort of like find a way of how you can negotiate it and be able to actually like maybe like save it in a way that it still says the same thing and it still, you know, means the same thing. Yeah. I remember like I was in Iran and then I was participating in the Islamic festival, and so I'm not Islam myself, so I was making a painting, but then everybody was sort of like, I remember I was sort of like surrounded by a lot of people and they were like questioning, you know, and I didn't know that within there are things that I could not do in a painting actually. Things that I could not do within the society, and I had to try and change it and reuse a different way of sort of like speaking. Yeah.
So you discovered when you traveled that, you know, so you are learning about norms and beliefs when you are traveling a lot, right? And that other cultures have other norms and beliefs, etc. And what is your position in such a situation when you're invited, for example, or if you're participating in a biennial, for example, or exhibition?
Mostly if I participate in a biennial, what I really prefer to do is to actually be there for a bit longer and do enough research. But I always want to sort of like try and maybe live amongst the people and meet the people and experience how they live and engage within conversation. And within that, if I can be able to sort of like have a way of how I can respond towards, or how we can have a conversation, that's sort of like how I end up sort of like creating or making my work. Yeah.
But would you say that your work is much connected to Zimbabwe? And also I would like to speak with you about the portraits, because it's the portraits, because it's exactly what I know. There are so many drawings and beautiful works and paintings I admire. Also we have so many little portraits on the phone books pages. I have the feeling we are obsessed with doing portraits.
I think we spend a lot of time looking at ourselves than than other
Visa?
people. Yeah.
Yeah, because what I maybe can mention, Edmai arrived 2 weeks ago on Wednesday, and then to Frankfurt Airport, and then it was not. He was not able to. He wanted to go to Barcelona, but he couldn't, unfortunately. And the police booked a flight back for him to Zimbabwe. So he arrived from Zimbabwe to Frankfurt, and the next flight was to Barcelona before coming to Hamburg. So we booked the flights for him, and then he messaged me and was saying, I can't come to Hamburg, I need to go back to Zimbabwe. And do you want to speak about the experience?
Maybe Helena should probably come in a bit. Then I can speak about it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like, okay, I've sort of like gotten used to so much to crossing borders. So in a way, I don't know whether it's me or it's not me at the same time, because I've been sort of like pushed so much that in the end I don't know how to respond anymore. It's just like it's normal, like something that is not normal becomes sort of like normal because you've been through it quite a long time. And what really happened actually, I think to a part, yeah, I mean, it's really funny. Yeah, I try to think about it because I was getting off the plane and then I meet the police, but then I really wanted to go to the loo because I didn't have the time. And then I managed to bump into the police, and then they checked my passport and then they let me on, and then I ended up at the visa, at the passport control, and that's when they found out that I probably had overstayed in Europe with maybe more than 18 days or so.
38.
Yeah. So, but the question for me was, I have a 1-year visa which is valid up until December, and I'm entitled to like 90 days. So I thought that maybe my visa allows me like 90 in and 90 out. So I've been traveling since November last year. I've been in and out of Europe. I've been in New York. I've been like traveling a lot. Like, so I sort of like didn't keep track on this. I still think that because I so much believed that it's 90 days, I should not stay more than 90 days, which I had not done. So then came the issue, and we sort of like started to negotiate back and forth about this, that I haven't overstayed, and then the immigration was like, you overstayed. I'm like, no, I haven't overstayed. And so finally they were like, okay, your issue, what do you think? Do you think it's possible if we get you a flight back to Zimbabwe? You want to go? I'm like, yeah, of course. I mean, I would go like straight away, yeah. So then they booked the flight, and I was ready to go, but then I got this paper where from time to time I had to keep checking with the police that I'm still around. So I was actually like put within the transit section for like, I think 27 hours or so. But that's when I'd explained to them that I'm here not because I'm here because I'm here for fun or something. I'm here because I've been invited by maybe a public institution to do a show. So, and there's no way, if you hold a valid passport that still says that that's still waking up until end of December, there's no way you can get another visa to enter any European country. So by technicality of nothing, there's no way I could get another visa to come. So I didn't know about this. And that's where you came in to try and intervene, you guys.
So we were in a situation exactly what the exhibition is about. So in the end, I tried to call the police and had several calls, and we tried to get out Maya from this situation. He needed to sleep there at the airport for one night, and in the end, the next day, because it all happened on Wednesday midday, I guess, and one day later, at 12:31, the policeman said to me, it's exactly the time, so 12:31, he received, the information that he can stay in Germany. He needed to apply for a second visa, which is until tomorrow.
It's a different kind of visa. Like I'd never really heard about it. For the first time, I think, I was surprised to find out that there's actually a visa which is like this. Yeah.
Right, but we are so happy that you are here with us. Exactly. So it was exactly the issues what the exhibition is about the boundaries and about visa questions and about traveling and right. One last thing before we before we talk about you, Helena, about the video identity. It was made in 2012 already, so the work is from 2017 open line, right? So I have the feeling that identity, migration, boundaries, these are topics which are very often in your works. Can you tell us a little bit about the video?
Yeah, I don't know what to say anymore. But I think maybe what really fascinated me when I was working on that is the idea of identity. Like, just to think of the word identity, it has got a multiple ways of sort of looking at it. Because I think there is maybe for me there's personal identity, and then there's also group identity or collective identity or national identity. So identity has always been fascinating because it has been sort of used by people in so many spaces, whether political or economic or be it social or religious. This sort of way of placing identity is something that sort of fascinates me. Now, especially in my country where I'm coming from, identity has become something that has to do with political association. So there's now a different sort of identity. And to think about how a human being how one person can have so many sort of layers and so many identities. It's you, me, and you, one to one, all these sort of faces that we keep sort of putting on, be it in a meeting, be it in a space. I don't know.
So you mean one person has a lot of identities?
Yeah.
And then there is, of course, group identity, national identities, etc.
But within that, it's like a lot of it's like order in disorder, in a way. You're still, whether it's a group that is within a group, we're still individuals within that group.
Yeah, I have the feeling, you are layering your face with a lot of color, but also with a lot of different stuff, and then putting it away. I hope you saw it, the video, and then it's like there is, a moment where I have the feeling that you want to change identity somehow.
I don't know whether I would say dramatic. Because the video was I actually made the video me and the camera, so it was a conversation between me and the camera, and so the other side, it's something that I would not sort of know, but for me what was important was the dialogue, was the space between me and the camera, that sort of space where I don't know, like I think also like I also have this challenge or this difficult also with performance, whether the performer is a performer, or whether the performance becomes the performer, or or the audience actually ignites the performer, or the performer has always been within the artist or something. So this sort of like thing, like it's an imbalance which we have within ourselves, I mean, which we carry maybe within our history or our backgrounds, how we've grown up and stuff, or this thing keeps coming to us to sort of like, I don't know, like trigger these kinds of identities of who we are, how we sort of like deal with situations. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you for now.
Thank you, Anna.
Helena.
Yes.
So your video work is very poetic. It shows an apartment and inhabitants and plays inside an apartment. And then there is the title, Adakali, named after a Romanian and Danube Island, a remaining Turkish enclave that last gathered inhabitants from all parts of the Ottoman Empire, and it was flooded in 1971. I have the feeling, when you see the video work and then you have the title, I was wondering what was first.
The video. The title came very, very late, actually, in the very end, which is somehow strange, because now I think it became sort of a starting point for many people, which is good. I mean, I have another work which is 21.3 degrees Celsius, for example. There's similar relation, maybe, that you have something that is not visible inside the film. It's not among the concrete things, but then when you edit, it's another layer. It's still really part of the work. So, and that's how it is for me with Adakali. And actually, when I had the video and I was looking for the title, and I knew I wanted to name it after an island that had disappeared. So I was looking for islands that had disappeared. And Adakali was, at first I really liked the words, which then also, I don't know, combines with how I worked with the languages, or we can talk about that maybe later. But so I liked Adakali, and then I read, okay, Adakali means fortress island, Festungsinsel, fortress island. And I thought, okay, so this is perfect. And then I read the history of Adakali, and it was like as if I had written it down, like for the film. So everything was perfect. Also the purpose, because in the end it was like this, this strange enclave in very small, 2 kilometers, very, very small, and you had roses there and a mosque and coffee house, and I don't know, so people went there to enjoy also. So it was like also a little utopia that then had to disappear in this case for very functional reasons.
What I think fits very well that it's inside the whole video, and for me it's like an enclave, because you are the camera is turning to the left, to the right, very, very slowly. It's like it flows very slowly, and then you are in this space, and then you have the open window, and this is like an escape for me. And then what I saw, the music is very, in the end, so the very last minutes, or maybe 1 minute, or not even 1 minute, I would say, is the music is changing, the sound is changing, right? There is something dramatic in the end. And I had the feeling that for me it was like, this is the float of the island.
Yeah. Well, I never, it wasn't like that, but I can understand this feeling. The sound is built throughout the whole film, so it keeps changing. It's not so easy to listen, but it's very subtle. So it's very much layered. So there's one basic line which is a loop of, and you hear it if you listen very close, but you don't have to, you don't have to know. But there's like a loop that is, and you hear like a jingle from a faraway television set. I don't know, something like da-da-da-da-da. So it comes. So there's this like circle movement, but it's really hidden. And then the sounds come in. I mean, it's completely built. Obviously, there's no original sound in this film, and the further it gets, I mean, it seems like there are sounds from inside, very close sounds like this. But they are marked, so we don't hear everything, and so it's certain sounds, and then the sounds that come from outside, like really invading. For me, it's more gentle, but I don't know. But it could be invading also. But they come inside and mix, and they become louder, and it sounds from really from all over the world. So we collect it, and it's very different sounds. But I don't know. There's wrestling. But what's interesting about some sounds is that they're ambivalent. So there's one when they are lying in the bed, and it could be a manifestation. It could be something very aggressive that is going on outside. So we don't know if it's like, in a kind. It's also unsettling sometimes, maybe.
Yeah, you just said that there's a mixture of sounds, and what I really liked is you have you look inside the space and you imagined you as a student. It was my imagination, and you have the people are talking, and you don't know what they are saying, of course, and there is an image, and you imagined yourself in such a situation, and then there is another layer with all the different cultural motives, I would say. So you have another language, the Chinese language, which is introducing into the video, and then you have the poem. Mm-hmm. This was Brazilian, yeah. And then you have in the end the Arabic sounds somehow. How come that you mixed so many different cultural background, I would say?
Wow, this is, I mean, I'm not working very conceptual, I must say. I mean, of course, there's always, and like everything that I experience, that I get to know, that I read, that I see, and so on, is of course like stored. And I think things like intuition, which might sound random, but it's not. I think it's a very, very complex thing, and it's really important for my work. And I think it's a very interesting thing because, of course, it builds up on something. It's not from nowhere. And with this film, especially because it has quite a long story. I shot the material now 6 years ago, I think. And I had this material with something in mind, so I wanted to the first plans, I don't even remember it so much, what I wanted to do, but I wanted to go outside also. It was always about places and different layers of time, of history and so on, and functions also, like social functions, because it's in Karofette, so, and you know, there you have the, was ist denn Gericht? The court, so you have, I mean, you have the court, you have the jail, you have the bunker, you have a leisure park, you have like a economical area, like a market area, you have the fair, and so on. So it's a really, you have the park, which was before like the border of the city, and so on. So it's a really interesting place, I think, and I lived there, still live there, and for a long time. So, and somehow I lived in this apartment that we see, not now anymore because it doesn't exist in that form anymore. But and I always had the feeling that it somehow was inside all this. Then there was this church in front that we see also. It's now a Russian Orthodox, but it had been built last century, so it's not old at all. It's neo. It's a neo whatever style, Romantic. Anyway, so all this inspired me, and I was sitting so many years at this window watching out and trying to understand. I don't know, it was really like a reflection space. And I think and I can't tell you, but I think it didn't only work for me that way, but for many, many visitors. And so there were lots of conversation going on in these places. And many conversations that somehow I feel them now in the video, but they are not in language. So, and then it was like 6 years, I filmed this material, and then I watched it over and over again, and I knew there's something to understand about it, which needed time. And then the other layers came, like the song, the poem, which is a song, the Brazilian song. It's the first 2 verses. It was actually when I was in Brazil and I couldn't speak Portuguese at that time. And but I listened to the song and I connected it immediately to this material, like through the music. So it was another way of understanding. And then I asked Philip, who is here, to translate it for me. So it was translated, and then for me it was like this perfect thing because it's about this. He wrote this song in the 70s, 72, when Brazilian was in dictatorship, and it's so this disc he published was back then kind of a, where you talked also about the ways you have to find sometimes to tell something, but there are times and places where you have to find a more subtle way, or so that it's not that obvious, and so on. It's with this song, and it's between somebody, like I imagine all these people, or me maybe, or us being in this place, and thinking about, okay, what can we do? Really basically, do we smoke or do we fight? Do we, like all these things, and there's so many possibilities in between. And this is the between
speaking,
the lines.
Singing, shouting, right?
Singing and shouting. Yeah.
And then practical, political.
Yes.
I was really wondering about that.
the practical and the political. Yeah, but it's true. It's then, we talked about this yesterday. I don't know, the political is not always so practical. And the the practical is very concrete and maybe more direct, and then the it gets, But that's, so somehow all that is going on in the film for me, or in the video, is in this space in between. Maybe it's in the sleep, because then you have the body in a space, and
so the video is asking a lot of questions, and it really starts very, very, what I really liked, because it's the Chinese voice, and it's reading the following words or sentences. A group of people asked where they could go. They imagined countries, they imagined communities, places. And this was, for me, I thought I would really love to have to work in the exhibition, because it's asking questions, and there are no answers. What I really liked about that, and then all the different aspects of culture which are in the video. I definitely liked it and thought it fits really well. And then there is the poem, and then they didn't trust dichotomies, but still they could find themselves between the lines, which is also really nice. It's the in-between you are talking about. Your work is titled Open Line. So it's maybe about the in-between, which is very important, and which is also connected to hybrids, because the context of the exhibition is that there are not straight boundaries, you know, it's exactly the in-between.
Yeah, I think this is like this in between, or that it's, or putting in question in general, like all these conceptions of boundaries. I mean, some conceptions are very clear because they are ideas like nations, but others are not so clear, maybe like bodies. Mm-hmm. And then I found it really funny. I have to say, because when we built up the exhibition, there was an idea to paint one wall yellow, or a color, to give it a color. We did it, but we decided that it was the wrong idea in the end. But what was nice about it, I told you also, like finding the color, I was checking which colors were in the video. So really, you know, digitally, like tick, 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 analyzing. And then those were all the colors that are in your work, an open line, and you were worried. And I was like, yeah, well, but I can't help it. I mean, it's really strange. So now here we have a transgression. I mean, I found it, I think I wrote you, well, yeah, I understand that it might be a problem, but then it's really interesting.
Exactly, so my reaction was, wait, we need to rethink over the colors, because I think that at Meyersburg will be a lot of yellow, we'll have a lot of yellow colors, and then, because we agreed on also a brownish yellow color, and then I thought it's one wall, you have yellow on the one side and yellow on the other, but yeah, that's true. So your work is I think it gives space for reflection, and this is what you have in the poem and in the little sentences you have, and it's, you know, there is such a, it's stillness and movement, and it's, yeah. And what so you are giving just hints, and I also like the utopia, you know, because there is so much space for another, somehow for another space. When we first met, we were talking about Homi Kababa, and he is working, there is a book by Homi Kababa, and it's about hybridity, and about cultures and the hybridity of cultures. And it reminded me definitely the space you are creating with the work, what he is telling about the third space. And you wrote also, or you read about him, right?
Yeah, it's quite a long time ago. It was in relation to another film video work, The Wild, where I combined, it's also an apartment, a very different one. It's inside, and then Super 8. It's interesting. I mean, there's Super 8 material which I inherited from a grand uncle. He had filmed animals, and mainly in old German colony, Schutzgebiete. How do you say it? So Tanzania and so on, you know. So I got this material, and then I had this idea because he lived in one of these post-war German 50s architecture, you know, these houses, workers class. And so I found a house here, and then the animals like invade the house. So I didn't project them in real. Well, anyway, they seem to be projected, but they become like they inhabit the house slowly. And this is what was for me like this third space, you know, because something is happening in between, and for me like this question in this terms also this, somehow for me these animals were like domesticated by the camera, in a way captured, and I wanted to let them free again, in a way. I also frame it. I have the cadrage, and you know, it's all is brutal in the end, but but yet at least to give them a little bit of anarchy. But this is for me like the third or the possibility to create something different, what I think is really interesting. I mean, that's in the arts. And that is also, that's the between the lines. That the thing that maybe language is not always the right form, even though it's a really good form I live in. But it's not, we have so many more possibilities, and we can use them here, you know. And that's for third spaces, for example.
Yeah, and Maya, this is because you are describing, we're talking about your connection to the digitalization right now and mobility. So I think it's exactly what you mean with this point, right? When you are talking about nowadays, you are like living like a cultural nomad, I would say, because you are traveling a lot. And it's also the in-betweenness between countries traveling and making the experience also with norms, with other norms and cultures.
Well, there's something that I really liked about when I saw Helena's video. It just sort of like reminded me, I mean, when the time that I fell asleep at Frankfurt, for me, like, I don't know, it just reminded me that, you know, like, that, you know, when you sleep and when just sleep just takes over, you don't know where, like, it doesn't matter where, like, it's like the idea about whatever, where you are does not really exist in a dream or in a sleep, you know, like I literally forgot that this was my situation. And so when I was looking at a video, I was actually thinking about how vast spaces are, because there's so much space. And to look at the video, I really like it. It's so detailed. Like each and every object that's in there speaks about the idea of space, you know, like, and I think I liked that so much, yeah.
Thanks.
Maybe we open the talk to others. Maybe you have also questions.
I just say to the sleep, it's really nice. There is this, I don't know, maybe here is somebody like from a seminar, but in Chantal Ackermann's, there's in the end these scenes. I don't know if you know this film, but there are people sleeping in a waiting hall from a central station, train station. It's full, it's like, it's cold and it's crowded, and you see so many people sleeping. And in the seminar we were talking about the scene because it's really special, I think, because that they sleep, that there's a certain thing like confidence, because you lose control. That's what you say, you know, you let go. So when you sleep, it's like, okay, you're very vulnerable. And then being in these places, it's so strong. I think it's such a strong image also. And when you talked about it, I was like, yeah, wow, this is crazy. And
also the root, because you were saying they didn't trust dichotomies, which is, it's not like having one part and another. It's like,
so much,
yeah, it's hybrid, hybridity. So exactly, there is not such a boundary, right? Yeah. I think Katja wants to ask something.
Anybody else? I was wondering, maybe that's a question more addressed to Admire, but maybe both of you can answer this question, because I was wondering how traveling and spending time in maybe not so familiar or new place and a community affected your artistic practice. Especially maybe Admire with like then in moments when you are invited to like a national pavilion to represent Zimbabwe, but also in like going to the Netherlands to study there, how this affects your artistic practice.
About my artistic practice, I would say that, I think as an artist, like it has also like changed the kind of media that I work with. Because I think like there is a problem, especially when you travel, that when you always have to leave. And so when you leave, there will always be things that you think you always come back to. So there will always be things that, I mean, you have to make some hard choices, what stays and what comes with you. So as an artist, like now, I mean, like also as a person, I think I think I would probably say that my wardrobe has become even very, very small. That when I travel, I'm traveling with all myself. And when I make work, sometimes I'm making work that I can actually even like I've started doing video or performance, and then I try to make work with things that I can even pack in my backpack and cross borders with them. At the same time also, I have met a lot of amazing artists, and I always try by all means I always try by all means to find a way of visiting artist studio. When sometimes I feel like when I visit an artist studio, it makes me forget that I am traveling. I feel so much at home when I enter into an artist studio. It's like, for me, it's like the whole sort of like world. It's like as if I've been there forever, and I have no problems with even like crashing or sleeping in artist studios. I mean, yeah. So this, and the dialogues that you actually get and what you actually learn more from meeting people and artists, I think as a person, I think, I think a lot has changed on the way how I see things and the way how I also feel things. Now I'm not as impatient as I used to be, and I'm not easily sort of like moved by a lot of things. Yeah, like even things that I see people even like maybe freaking out with so quickly. For me, it's like certain things that I just sort of like let slide, because you meet a lot of things and you learn a lot of things and you grow, and your way. I think my way of looking at things have even changed quite a lot. Before, I had no idea about the world. Like my whole world was just sort of like close to Zimbabwe. But also, I think like as a Zimbabwe, I never even thought that I would actually like travel, because it felt like there was no need. But when I started traveling and I started meeting all this, I realized there was so much I didn't know, and so much I had to know, and so much I had to learn. So that's, I don't know if that answers you.
While traveling. Yeah, I mean, definitely, of course, me also, it has, I mean, I'm sure it's different because I was able to travel very early. The important point was when I went away like 12 years ago, something, to Buenos Aires for 1 year. And I just stayed there for 1 year. So I was there, but then I just stayed. And I didn't study, so I was living. But and that was really good. I think what was the most important, two important things. The first was that it was the first time that really no one and nothing like determined me, or I was, which was No, I think everybody knows it who goes to a place where you stay for longer, and there's really nobody expects anything from you because nobody knows you. And then I didn't speak the language in the beginning. I learned it then, of course, but it was really strange. So I had to kind of find out who I was in every new situation, or also the possibilities maybe of changing things. I don't know. This is one thing, and the other thing was because it was the first time I was out of Europe, and I thought I think I had always thought, yeah, you know, I'm of course not Eurocentristic, and I'm of course, you know, very liberal, and I don't know, and I wasn't, and that was really also, you know, you have these moments that you feel ashamed of so many things. And like the perspectives change, and
about personal identity, right? When the personal identity
yeah,
change.
the personal, but also then the really like the collective, and like in in what contradictions you stand, and of course you ask your own behavior. And this even lasted longer. That was not only when I was in Buenos Aires, that went on then when I came back here, and then it changed again, and then it changed again. So the perspective or the position from where you see yourself or certain societies or historical developments or so on. Yeah, this is what really changed by being somewhere else and not just reading something from somewhere, or, you know, like, yeah, there seems to be a very different from, because of course we can read, we can try to enter other states, like the octopus. Yes, but then being there is different.
Yeah. So this is more about origin and home, right? Because the home is changing then, and the question is, can I, you know, be for 1 year somewhere else and feeling home? And yeah, the question is, where is home? What is home?
It also, it also confuses. Also, like, I mean, when you go back, I mean, like, you don't even know anymore, like, what is home. You don't even know, like, you know, like things sort of like change, like your way of looking at things. Like, I realize, like, when I go to Zimbabwe, as much as I sort of like want to live there, you know, but sometimes it just feels like this is not home, you know. Even like my home is no longer like a place anymore, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me it would be like maybe my home is actually more of a studio or something that gives me joy or satisfaction in doing. Yeah.
People. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we're talking. I live in Hamburg. You said it. She lives and works in Hamburg. Yeah. Surprise. No, but yeah, but no. Yeah, it's my home, but it's because of the people mainly, and I love the harbor. It's true.
Yeah, but I think what my experience is when you change places, you know, first there is a fear to be somewhere else, but then you are used to it somehow, and then it's totally all right to change places very often. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's also, when you said, that was interesting, when you said, okay, you don't get so impassionate anymore. I had this, because the last 2-3 years I was traveling too much. As for me, it was too much, very much, very far, very, like, all the time, and always like for 3 days, for 1 week, for 2 days, I don't know, all the time around. And there was a point when I had the feeling that that I was losing my senses, like really literally, that I was like numb. That I couldn't listen anymore, really, that I was not, and I felt really bad. So I tried to stop for a time, I mean, and relatively, but yeah, because it's like, then also these time shifts, and so, I mean, it really affects me. I can't tell. But it makes only sense when what you describe, when you're open, when you have some time to stay, to really understand, because understanding is so difficult. Super difficult. You really need time. And I think it's not like just a stopover and, you know, these airports like being so hostile and... No.
Some more questions? No.
Thank you. Anna.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.